And we are live. Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, June 29th, and we are having our live chat. Um, my wife just shared me a news story that no. I am completely floored by this. It's not weather related, but apparently people go to Hamptons and they're getting Botox because they don't want to go to the bathroom while driving. So they're injecting this into their bladder.
I don't know if it's Botox, exactly. It's referred to as
Bladder Botox. Just use a public restroom, for God's sakes. I fear for the world. I'm done. Oh my God.
It's all fun and games until they go into renal failure.
Right? Or I don't know what to say aside from oh, you know what? Let me turn off the air conditioner. 1 second. Hey, hon, can you turn off the air conditioner for me? Okay, she's going to get it. So that's what the background noise is, because we try to keep the apartment slash office cool. There we go. Okay, so with that, I hope you guys can hear me better now. With that, that's just, I just heard that with everything else going on the past 2 weeks. It's just, hearing that, it's just like, wow. So this is why I focus on meteorology, because no matter how crazy the world is, I always have calculus, which is apparently far easier than life. So let's talk about what is going on. The main stories going on throughout the world of weather, which we're focused on the tropical Atlantic, and we'll focus on the weather pattern for this upcoming weekend, which looks unsettled. I've been saying for almost well over a month. The 4th of July weekend looks to be unsettled. I don't have the details yet. Now we're getting a little bit better with the details. So let's check that out. So first, we'll take a look at the tropics. And first, we have one disturbance down here. That is right around the Western Gulf Coast. That's trying to get its act together. And then we have another disturbance down here. In fact, here, let me use the infrared, which you can see right here. And then you got another tropical wave that's trying to form right here, and another one out here. So look, the tropical Atlantic is getting increasingly more active. And again, this is June. It's still June, technically. And typically we do not see a lot of activity in June. So on average, you get about one storm a year, which is what we've essentially had. Is there a chance that this disturbance here becomes a tropical depression or tropical storm? Well, going back to the water vapor satellite picture, we can see we have outflow. You see how these clouds are fanning out here? This means we have an anticyclonic circulation trying to develop here, a warm core circulation. All right? So we have some of that structure. But the low-level circulation, well, it's rather disorganized. You see, what the NHC is looking for is for this feature right here to consolidate into a closed low-pressure system, i.e., you have strong winds on all sides of the circulation, and you have a clear, organized, well-developed, low-level circulation. We don't have that yet. And the reason why we don't have that yet is because it's interacting with the landmass in South America. Now, the idea is that this circulation will eventually get out into these parts of the Caribbean, and we'll be able to develop possibly into a tropical storm before making landfall over Central America. There is some debate as to whether the low-level circulation gets its act together. But if it does, and if we reduce the amount of shear because of the interaction from land, we certainly have the mid and upper level structures set up to support a steady development. And let me show you 850 millibars. There's our mid-level circulation. which actually looks a little bit better organized this evening. And at 500 millibars, you can start to see that circulation a little bit further south. And then at 250 millibars, this is where you start to get your diffluence and divergence setting up. And here's your anticyclonic circulation that's trying to organize. So the features are there for a developing tropical system. We'll see if it becomes a tropical storm. No impact to the United States. Could actually lead to some remnant moisture for the desert Southwest in about 10 days or so as this crosses into the Pacific, lifts up towards Baja California, and then tracks into Arizona, New Mexico, and possibly even Texas. So that could be an interesting byproduct. Meanwhile, let's go towards the Gulf Coast here, and we have another disturbance here. Now this one has been producing festering thunderstorms. In fact, let me see if I can zoom in on this right here. It's producing some festering thunderstorms, but hasn't really been able to establish a low-level circulation. That's why we haven't named it as a tropical depression or storm. In fact, it's not even a PTC, a potential tropical cyclone. In case you guys are wondering, what is a PTC? They started doing this about 3 years ago. And basically what it is that it's a way for the National Hurricane Center and other international bodies to give locations a heads up of a rapidly developing tropical low pressure system, even though it doesn't meet all the criteria. So there's a lot of model support, it's very close to development, but it's not there yet. But they want to give people enough leeway, enough warning to say, hey, look, this could potentially become a tropical low pressure system. So that's how we developed the PTC system. It's actually a direct result of what happened with Sandy, because people didn't know, how do we handle Sandy? Well, it's transitioning, it's a tropical storm, it's a hurricane, now it's not a hurricane, it's extratropical. People got all confused. So we decided to develop this PTC system to try to address some of those issues. So right now, we're not seeing a lot of development or change around the coastal waters of Texas, but it doesn't take much in way of development to get this to a tropical depression level. If it does, it'll produce heavy rain over the coast of Texas, especially the south coast of Texas, and make for a rather soggy end of the week for much of the Texas coast. But again, I don't see this as being an impact for the eastern United States, but something to certainly keep an eye on. The tropical Atlantic right now relatively is quiet for the eastern United States. But we better keep our guard up. And I'm going to show you why this evening when we look at some of the various factors here. Let's jump back to the water vapor satellite picture and point out a couple things. Here is our upper level low and our persistent trough. And here is our western Atlantic ridge. Now notice in between these two, we keep on having this nice stream of tropical moisture at the mid-levels, marching its way from the Gulf Coast right up through the mid-Atlantic. This time, at least for right now, the way it's interacting, it's not producing much in the way of precipitation. It's pretty quiet. We have low humidity relatively in the atmosphere, so we haven't seen much in the way of rainfall. As we set up towards the end of this week, what we're going to start to see is that the polar jet stream, which we see right here, which would allow cold fronts to clear the coast, are going to start to run parallel to our surface cold fronts. And that's going to be a problem in terms of getting this cold front out of the region for the holiday weekend. So this is what we're looking at right now. You have your western Atlantic ridge that with each model run is a little bit stronger. You have your polar air up here in, let's say, the eastern Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River Valley in New England. And starting on Friday and continuing on through Saturday and Sunday and 4th of July on Monday, you have a persistent threat for showers and thunderstorms. Now, understand this is not a washout. This doesn't mean that whatever outdoor activities you might be having this weekend, whether that's a barbecue, go and check out the fireworks, it doesn't mean everything's going to be rained out. It does mean you're going to have to keep an eye to the sky and keep an eye on that radar. At least I'll be keeping an eye on the radar. That's what I do. It's going to be an active weekend in terms of showers and thunderstorms. It's going to be a foggy weekend in the morning because you're going to have a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. But the reason why we're seeing this is because of the way that the pattern sets up by the time we get to Friday afternoon. Your polar jet stream is set up to the north for the entire weekend. And it's moving from west to east. And how is your frontal boundary aligned? Well, it's aligned from west to east. So there's nothing to push this cold front. It's basically locked in and stalled out. So as a result, what you end up with is a constant threat for what we call frontogenesis. And so let's take a look at 700 millibar velocity, vertical velocity. And you could see maybe if I can zoom in. I might not be able to, but let me try it. Okay. So we start off on Friday. Plenty of lifting. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. You have this constant area of frontogenesis and lifting in the atmosphere. Combine that with plenty of moisture. We pull that up. Precipitable water values, which are right here. You can see by the time we get to Friday, you can see it's getting up close to over 1.5, getting close to 2 inches. And look at this. See this evolution? See how you get these red blotches showing up? What this means is that we have the potential here for some heavier downpours and some tropical downpours. And again, throw in your questions into the chat room right now, both on YouTube and on the live chat. Of course, live chat, premium live chat will answer your questions first with more detail and answer all of them while I go over this. I'm already seeing a lot of great questions, so please do. So you can see there's plenty of moisture in the atmosphere for these thunderstorms. So what does that translate to? Well, over the next 90 hours, it's quiet right now up until about on the NAM guidance, on the European guidance through Friday morning. And then Friday afternoon, we start to see showers and thunderstorms start to show up. Now notice in this solution here, you got a lot of broken up scattered showers and thunderstorms. So what this means to me, considering convective feedback issues with a synoptic scale model, is that you have the potential for these showers and thunderstorms to produce very heavy downpours, frequent lightning, wind gusts over 40 miles per hour. But there's also going to be a lot of areas that see almost nothing. And that shows up really nicely here on the mesoscale guidance. This is the NAM guidance, where you can see there's certainly a threat for showers and thunderstorms starting Friday afternoon, continuing on into Friday night, but it's not widespread. Whereas you take the same solution on the synoptic models and you end up with more coverage in this scenario, which is just simply a limitation of the synoptic models. When you get convection setting up, it usually leads to this scenario where you get kind of like these bullseyes showing up. So it doesn't handle this type of lifting very well. So this weekend is setting up to be one that is, well, unfortunately, not the best for outdoor activities. I'm not saying you should cancel, but I'm saying you should have backup plans and a good umbrella handy, okay? because these showers and thunderstorms, they'll be able to pop up with very little notice, drop a lot of rain, and leave about 30 minutes later. There is a chance that because of the stationary nature of the frontal boundary and the light winds aloft, while this isn't a severe threat, this could be a situation where a thunderstorm could linger over one location for several hours while other locations get next to nothing, and that one town with that thunderstorm could get 1-2 inches of rainfall. So definitely the potential for some training showers and thunderstorms will be possible, but where it doesn't train, you can remain completely dry for that entire period. So it's going to be something we're going to watch this day by day, hour by hour, and analyze the thunderstorms. Your best potential for thunderstorms will be during obviously the peak period of instability, which would be basically from roughly 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. But showers and thunderstorms will be a threat throughout the entire forecast period, along with low clouds and fog. So if you're looking to go get a tan for this weekend, well, probably not the best weekend for that. That is for sure, as we're going to remain active. Now, remember what I said about the weather pattern overall. This is the latest European ensemble guidance going out to 15 days. This goes out through the middle of July. And notice where we're focusing the heaviest rainfall here, okay? You're talking about basically the Gulf Stream. So what are we really seeing here? What we're seeing here is that you have your polar air here. This is your Western Atlantic ridge, and we're caught in between. And notice you have above normal rainfall over much of the eastern United States and along the Gulf Stream. So what this could be, I won't take this verbatim, is that you have cold fronts coming in, slowing down over the mid-Atlantic. You have tropical systems possibly developing along these stalled cold frontal boundaries that could track into the northwestern Atlantic, possibly even along the east coast. But this is an active weather pattern, and it's one that will feature in the data below normal temperatures. But I want to warn you, that doesn't mean we won't have a couple of hot days. I've been saying this repeatedly. I know you've probably heard this already. But much like this week we'll have a couple of days pushing into the lower to mid-90s. And then the next day we're back into the 70s and 80s. The one difference, though, with this weather pattern is that I see this as a more humid weather pattern. In that, yes, we'll see polar air masses trying to invade, but I think we'll see more of a humid weather pattern holding on as we go through mid-July. And that is supported by the above normal rainfall that we're going to be seeing. I would be wary of the potential for flash flooding. So when we take a look at the pattern, in fact, here, actually, I got an idea here. Let me pull up the latest European operation control solution here. Just kind of make my point. Take a look at this over the next 15 days. And we basically continue on with the same type of scenario setting up. High pressure over the St. Lawrence River Valley, Western Atlantic Ridge in control, and our cold fronts moving into the region, stalling out, keeping us active with a constant threat for showers and thunderstorms. This weather pattern has been in place since May, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. So if you like active weather, if you like above normal rainfall, this is your pattern. If you're looking for sustained heat and humidity, not so far. It's not looking like a pattern that's going to deliver that at this time. So now I've kind of gone over everything, and we have a lot of great questions here on YouTube, and we have a lot of great questions here on the premium live chat. So we'll get to the premium live chat first and dive into some of these questions. Let's see what we got here. The part of this is from Card, that part of the Gulf is an area where a couple of storms have gone from not quite a depression to a strong storm over the course of a couple of days. If they sit over the same spot and any shit goes away. I agree with you. They're talking about this scenario down here. That is true. The one difference is that the way that the upper level winds are aligned is going to be pushing this disturbance into the coast of Texas. So it kind of cuts down the potential for development. I have seen, and this is typically happening when you have the high pressure system more right on the Gulf of Mexico or right on the Gulf Coast itself, where it could just fester and then rapidly develop, and within the span of like 6 hours, it could go from a tropical depression to a Category 1 hurricane. I have seen that before. In that scenario, you're absolutely right. But in this case, I don't think that's going to be an outcome because of the slow nature in which it's developing and the fact it's getting pushed into the Gulf Coast. Is the strengthening Western Atlantic Ridge likely to push PTC2 closer to South America coast and help limit development, particularly if the trend of strengthening continues? It won't push it south, but it'll push it faster into Central America. So basically what it's actually literally doing, you can literally see it right here. Let's see if I can pull it up on a water vapor and show it. Yeah, you can literally see it taking shape here. Here's our Western Atlantic Ridge growing, and you have a couple of mid-level features around 700 millibars developing under it. And you can see as it's starting to strengthen, it's basically driving this right towards Central America. It's doing so fast that originally the forecast was, hey, it could even become a weak hurricane. Now it's not going to have enough time to do that. In fact, by the time we get to Friday at this time, this will actually be marching its way through Central America and heading towards the Pacific. So that's why it's going to be moving too fast. It won't push it further south. It'll just push it faster to the west. Looks like Friday is going to be disgustingly hot and humid. Yes. Heat index probably going to be around 95 to 99 degrees, especially in the Delaware River Valley. You're going to have scattered showers and thunderstorms now, looks like in the afternoon, so going to have to adjust that in the forecast tomorrow morning. And it looks like it's just going to be one of those muggy days. And I don't see, one thing I will say, I don't see this as being a constant severe thunderstorm threat this upcoming weekend. What I see this being is a heavy rainfall event. And there's our ice cream truck. I wonder if that's going to be going around when it's raining heavy. Probably. Have the SOI values started to reflect the changes in sea surface temperatures? Well, let's take a look. Let's see here. Where did I put that data? I'm pretty sure it's right here. Here we are. Okay, so far, this is a great chart, by the way. SOI really hasn't changed all that much. It's pretty much been fluctuating right around 15, around 17. It just popped up to 18 in the seasonal values. So far, we're not seeing any significant weakening in the SOI, which means that I still see this in terms of the atmospheric influence as a moderate La Nina. In terms of sea surface temperatures, it's a weak La Nina. But when it comes to forecasting and doing seasonal forecasting, I like relying on the SOI because it gives me a more clear connection between the sea surface temperature influence and the atmospheric response. Because after all, the atmospheric response is what's the most important factor in the forecast. So if I'm getting a moderate response, I'm going to go with moderate results. So that is what I'm essentially seeing. I haven't seen any drop yet. What I would look for, and we're starting to see this in the daily values. We finally went negative here around early June for the first time in 3 months. And we had another short negative period a couple of days ago. What I would look for in terms of sustained weakening is if I start to get daily values that are constantly negative. That will start to knock down the monthly and seasonal values and will be a signal that a significant change is on the way. Thus far, we haven't seen anything like that. Do you expect a lot of training, showers, and thunderstorms for this weekend? I think there's a high threat. I really do. Right now, we're kind of in a limbo because we kind of got through the first part of this event where we can take a look at our mesoscale models. And you can see, and again, this is towards the end, and it's the 18Z NAM here, but you kind of get the theme, okay? Don't worry so much about the specifics, but you get the theme here, which that you're going to get showers and thunderstorms, try to approach the region. They're going to be widely scattered. So look, there's a lot of areas that see almost next to nothing out of this. And then you're going to get some showers and thunderstorms trying to converge along the cold front here. But look, there's nothing really that stands out as like impressively severe or anything of that nature. Just a lot of pesky showers. In fact, if you're a baseball fan, this is a type of shower activity that they could play through at a baseball game. So you kind of get the idea here that, yeah, there'll be showers and thunderstorms around, but not necessarily where you'll wash out your entire weekend. What are the chances of there being clear period for fireworks Monday night? Right now, the data is suggesting it's not the best situation. I can't rule it out. I would say that I wouldn't cancel your plans now. I'd probably have a better idea, to be honest with you, on Monday morning to get a better idea of that potential. I would say the further north and west you are, the better chance you have. If you're looking at the Macy Days, well, I've seen them shoot fireworks off regardless. So we'll see how that sets up. But it's a bit touch and go right now. Not looking the best. Let's see. I noticed the models show persistent colder than normal temperatures in eastern Canada and the Maritimes. We've had a lot of backdoor cold fronts for the last 2 months. With the MJO going into a null phase, will we have a continuation of this pattern in July? I think if you're in Connecticut and Long Island, you got a better chance of seeing a return of a backdoor cold front and that maritime air mass influence. I think that if you're down towards southwestern New Jersey and Philadelphia, I think that the Western Atlantic Ridge influence is going to become progressively stronger. So it really depends on where you are in the region, but I'd say the New York City Metro has a better chance of seeing influences from the backdoor cold front, and the Philadelphia Metro has a higher potential of staying in the sticky, humid air in this scenario. Which day would be the best day for a barbecue during the holiday weekend? That's a good question. Right now, I would go probably Sunday, but it's not that much better than Saturday or Monday. But Sundays looks like your best potential. Is this the kind of pattern that can perpetuate itself with storms forming along the front, moving into the northwestern Atlantic and helping to keep the upper level pattern in place? In this scenario, the amount of latent heat release to influence the weather pattern is basically negligible because you're seeing that a lot throughout the entire Atlantic. So it's too small of an influence. The feedback pattern comes in to what's happening in the plains with the heat ridge and how that interacts with the trough over eastern Canada, which plays into the ridge over the western Atlantic. So let me pull up this guidance right here. Okay, so this ridge with its heat feeds back and keeps on getting stronger. So we see that constantly showing up here. That evolution plays into this trough getting stronger, which builds this ridge and this ridge. So as a result, the interaction between these ridges and this trough feed back on each other. So while it's not the convection or the thunderstorms that keep the pattern going, it's the interaction of these features feeding off of each other that will keep this pattern going. And that's why I don't see this really breaking down. And this is all driven by what we call a negative PDO. Let's zoom in on that. You see this feature right here? This feature right here is the same feature climatologically that has led to serious droughts over the desert Southwest, as you've known, as I talked about. Well, that pattern feeds into the heat ridge over the plains, which feeds into a trough over eastern Canada and the Northeast, which leads to our active weather pattern. So while it's bone dry in the west, it remains very active in the east. And it's all based on the influence of the negative PDO signature. Let's see here. Should we expect a lull in tropical activity before things ramp up for the end of July into August? Hard to say. The MJO does go neutral, so I can't rule it out. It usually goes in ebb and flows. I would expect a significant uptick in tropical activity, where like you get like 3, 4, 5 tropical systems, named tropical systems, when the MJO goes into phase 7, 8, and 1. What does the Sahara dust look like right now? Right now, it's not too bad. It's still coming off the African coast, but nowhere near as significant, and it's not having as much impact on tropical systems because it's pretty much focused to the north of the intertropical convergence zone. In fact, take a look at the intertropical convergence zone, and it's pretty active for this time of year. There's no doubt about that. And if we pull up the Sahara dust, you can see here's your intertropical convergence zone. Here's your dust. Not really making much inroads. Nowhere near as impressive as it was earlier on in the season. Okay, a lot of great questions. Let me check out the YouTube chat here. There is a lot going on here. All right, let's see here. Let's see. I might be missing some questions. Let me refresh the chat real fast. Oh, this is something new. I just found out they have ads on my live chat. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I got that when I was trying to.
That's new. Thanks for all the weather lessons. Thank you. Let's see here. How many heat waves will become July? Okay, I got you. All right, so that is highly dependent on your location. I think if you are in the northern interior, you might not see any throughout July. New York City Metro, especially Long Island, I'm very confident of that. Philadelphia Metro, that is where things get a little bit tricky. I think you could see 1 or 2 minor heat waves. We're talking about like 3 days around 90, 91, 92, somewhere around there. I think that's a possibility. But this weather pattern is not favorable for any type of sustained heat. And in fact, here, let me show you this. This is pretty cool. Let me get out of this here. I want to show you this parameter. Okay, now this is some of the model data I look at when I'm making my forecast, especially the temperature forecast. And I want to show you the 10-day trend. And take a look at this. This tells me what the forecast was as I look back to 10 days. Okay, so here's 1 through 10 right here from 10 days ago. And then here's the current forecast, right? So when I look at this, let's say the day mid-90s. This forecast is working out pretty well. It's pretty much staying in the lower to mid-90s. But for a while, I had several days where I had the forecast suggesting a minor heat wave. Now, as we get closer to that potential, now we're down to 1 or 2 days, and that's it. See if we could do Philadelphia here. Same parameter. 10-day trend, and the same thing. We have some guidance that remains steady. Excuse me. Temperatures ranging between 89 and 91. 91 and 94. But the support for 3 days of heat quickly goes away. And the reason why I want to show you this is that the model guidance has been pretty aggressive with trying to produce sustained heat in the Philadelphia metro and a heat wave. And the reality is that it just hasn't panned out. And that is because of the active weather pattern. So that's why I've liked saying that yes, we will have a couple of days mixed in there where we're 91, 95 degrees, and it's going to feel worse because you just had temperatures in the 70s and 80s and lows in the 50s, and all of a sudden you're bouncing right back up into the mid-90s. It feels like someone slapped you in the face with a shovel. So it feels worse. But in the reality of the situation is that in this type of weather pattern, you may only end up with 2 days in the 90s, and then you get knocked right back down into the 80s, muggy still, but 80s. And so therefore, you don't get an official heat wave. And I see that happening quite a bit, and see that continuing being a theme going all the way through July and possibly even August. Let's see here. A lot of great questions. Will heavy rain continue throughout the remainder of the summer season, or will we have a period of dryness later this summer? Right now, based on what I'm seeing, and this is based on my thoughts on the tropical activity, I see this remaining a rather wet summer and early fall. I don't see any changes in that because I don't see any changes in the orientation of the Western Atlantic Ridge, the trough over eastern Canada, nor the ridge in the plains. And that's because the primary driver right now is La Nina and the negative PDO. Since I'm not seeing much in the way of any changes in those forcing mechanisms, I can't really say that there's any changes in the weather pattern on the way. Once I start to see a fundamental shift and change in La Nina, and especially the SOI data that we were just talking about, and the negative PDO, until I see that, I can't really forecast a change in the weather pattern. Another factor that will cause a change in the weather pattern is simply the change in the seasons. So once we get through into October and we start to deal with the winter and we get more of a neutral encinal effect on that, then you start seeing changes. But in terms of the summer weather pattern, I think what you see is what you get. And what you get is a lot of potential for rain. Now, that doesn't mean we won't see dry days. What it just means is that when we do get rainfall, it's going to be coming down heavy with tropical downpours. Let's see here. Going to be in Saratoga Springs, New York for 7/6. Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like there's going to be cold fronts moving through during that time period as well. This pattern is impressively active for this time of year and is directly connected to the La Nina influences. right, so far we've had a lot of great questions. Looks like I answered them all so far. But if you haven't, please keep on shooting them on through. It's 8:40 right now. We'll go about another 20 minutes or so. And then I will shut down for the night and watch some CSI. Hopefully not fall asleep. Or something, yeah. You know, I like watching CSI, but unfortunately I tend to fall asleep.
You don't have the attention span for it this time of night.
No, my intention. I'm not a night person. I don't know. Now, Susan's a night person. I am a day person, which is why I'm insane and get up at 3 a.m. in the morning. I don't even have a problem. You don't understand. When I wake up, it's not like I struggle and slug to get dressed and all that stuff. I just pop right up, like bing, ready to go. Whereas at night, I possibly could walk into a wall and not even know it.
That's why I steer you down the hall.
Exactly. What is the forecast schedule for the weekend holiday schedule for the 3-day weekend? Okay. Basically, it's going to be a holiday weekend schedule. I actually gave my intern off for the weekend because I have this rule with my interns, and I've had this from the beginning going all the way back to 2010. And that is that interns do not work holidays, because once you actually get into this field and you work in this field, the idea of a holiday is bye. There is no such thing. When I was younger and worked for a private weather company, I would work on Christmas, I'd work on 4th of July, my birthday. There was just no holidays. You might get a weekend, but even those weekends, you're still paying attention to the weather. So you're never really off. So my interns, I always make sure that they're off for the holiday weekends, because after college, that's it. Say goodbye to holidays and weekends and all that good stuff. This weekend will be basically Monday will be a lot like a Saturday forecast, where I get up when I get up and do the forecast. I won't be waking up at 4 a.m. or anything of that nature, because I think Susan would probably kill me if I actually got up that early on a day when everyone else is off. And I tend to do that when there's federal holidays, because there's less data to work with at any rate. So that's usually the plan. The Mets lost. Yes, I know. Okay, I guess we're going to talk baseball for a second. Well, all right, let me put it to you this way. The Mets had their first 3-game losing streak this whole season. Somehow, for some reason, there are individuals who want to trade everybody and anything and do this and do that. It's the first 3-game losing streak in the season. We got all the way to the end of June before we lost our 3rd game in a row. I'll take it. I don't need to trade anybody right now. I certainly don't need to panic or worry or anything of that nature. The Braves are doing what the Braves should do because they're the World Series champions. I'm not surprised that they're fighting back. So, we got a lot of games left with the Braves. It's going to be a fun summer. Calm down. Relax. Everything's going to be okay. Okay? Because at the end of the day, neither I nor you can do much about it, so just enjoy it for what it is. Oh, by the way, did you guys hear about the upgrades with the GFS? Let me see if I can pull up that news story here. I probably should have done it. That's my fault. GFS model upgrade. Okay. Of course, it doesn't come up automatically for me. Okay, so basically this is what happened. They have upgraded their model capability with new supercomputers. Now, here's the thing with the supercomputers that you need to understand. Yes, it's great that they're able to do that. And yes, it's going to be comparable to the European in terms of computing power. But they haven't upgraded the most important thing, which is observation collection. Until we improve our ability to collect more observations and create more mesonets, especially in locations like the plains, Alaska, and the Atlantic and Pacific and start to ingest more with the satellite data, you're not going to see a more significant improvement. We have to improve on our data collection. I think once we do that, I think we'll start to see better output with the GFS. And hopefully at some point in the next 10 years, they finally fix the convective parameters on that model, which keeps on creating convective feedback errors, which leads to illegitimate and erroneous solutions. Fingers crossed. Maybe they'll do it. Will La Nina fall apart? There is very strong support for La Nina to weaken into a neutral state by the time we get to the winter. Pretty much every model solution suggests it. Observational support is there via the subsurface. It's just a matter of, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. So I would say that we should see a pretty significant weakening of La Nina once we move into October and certainly November. Oh, Yankees broke the all-time home run record for June. I did not know that. Wow. Well, good for them. I mean, it's easy when they play in a minor league ballpark. No offense, but you know, a little leaguer could hit a home run off the left field or right field. But at the same time, I think that the Yankees are going to be just fine. I remember when all you Yankee fans were flipping out and saying that they need to fire the manager and everybody else in April. And now look, they got the best record in baseball. So, like I always say, when it comes to baseball, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So you don't want to fire everybody. These are some great questions. Let's see what else we got here. Judge is a beast. Yeah, they just got to pay him. Don't know why they're not, but that's another story. Let me take a look and see if there's any. Let me see if I can get a better satellite. Let's see. Something better for the Gulf Coast, Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, so far I'm just not seeing any type of development out here. Let's see maybe if we got any more convection showing up. So you got your low pressure system up here. What you would look for is some sort of convection starting to wrap around this low pressure system. And so far it's nada, nothing. Taking a look at, let's see here. Let's see if we got any better model data or satellite data. Yeah, see, what they would look for with this PTC is some sort of, well, better banding or at least convection or lightning showing up around this low-level center. We got nothing. I would not be surprised if we still have this as a PTC tomorrow morning. It's just really not impressive at all. But we'll keep an eye on it and see how that takes shape. So I think we're going to call it in for tonight. Definitely a good chat. Thank you again for all your questions. I hope everyone has a... What? Which one? Yeah, I already answered that one. Okay, so we will call it in for a night. I'll be back next week, same time, Wednesday. We'll have a more on possibly the tropics and our active weather pattern that continues. As always, thank you for joining, and for this 4th of July, stay safe out there.